Have you ever had to work at night or a different shift than just a 9 to 5 type shift? As an adult, I mean, like a career type job. And if so, did you enjoy it? Stay tuned for my take on being a natural night owl. Hi, welcome back to Trisha in her 60s. And I had something I wanted to talk about today that is very much an integral part of my being and has been for basically my whole life and is also for about 16% of the Americans. And that is that you are either a night owl or you work night owl hours. About 16% of U.S. workers do work outside of like 9 to 5. It's actually almost equal with men and women. I actually thought it would be more, but more men actually, but it's not. It is, but not much. Men slightly have the lead there. They have about 17.5% of men work a non 9 to 5, and little over 15% of women do. So I thought that was kind of interesting. This does not surprise me, this particular stat, and I'm getting this, by the way, from Redline.digital. It's a PR firm. I was just looking up some round numbers to give you. And Las Vegas has the most night shift workers with 16.5%. That does not surprise me at all. Not at all. And the reason I wanted to bring this up is because, again, I am starting to decide what's going to happen in the next couple months when my pseudo severance is over. But I wanted to let you know that you are talking with a natural night owl. 100% natural. I come by it honestly. I have always had that type of a schedule. I've always wanted to be up, even, I know a lot of times teenagers, because you're up late, because you're partying or whatever. I was never partying. I was just up late in my room watching TV on my little black and white TV screen in high school and college. But once I started working, I would think about 3/4. I'd have to go through all the actual numbers of years, but I'm going to say at least 3/4 of my work was either third shift, second shift, or a 12-hour type shift where I worked the night half or the later half of the 12 hours or 13-hour shift. And on all those jobs, I was a happy, happy, happy camper. I was so happy. Like I said, I've always just naturally been a night person, and I can tell you again that I do come to it honestly because my parents in their 80s are not the early chickens, rising with the chickens kind of thing where you get up at 5 in the morning or something. My parents, now that, they obviously have no ties on them with work or whatever, have been getting up later and later every decade, it seems like. And now they're getting up at like 10 or 11 o'clock in the morning and staying up till 1 at night, 2 at night. So I obviously get this naturally. And every time I am on vacation or away from a work thing where I don't have to worry about an alarm, I naturally gravitate to waking up usually between 11 and 1, somewhere in that area, and then going to bed about 4, 3 or 4. That is pretty much my normal. And I have had jobs where I worked second shift, where I worked third shift, and the best, of course, was when I worked at a company where I worked a 3-day, 13 hours per day shift in computer operations. It was something like 7 at night till 7 in the morning, or 6 at night till 7 the next morning, something like that. And it was wonderful. I'm trying to think, if we start the day with me coming home from work, I probably, because I didn't eat while I was at work, that kind of started with when I got the job where I had those long hours, those 13-hour days. I was in a area of town that at the time did not have much in the way of food or fast food, not even McDonald's or anything like that. And if I was going to be working, 7 at night, or 7 at night till 7 in the morning or something, I just, I would bring something if I needed it. But I also was wearing braces. That's another story. I was wearing braces as an adult, and I just got so used to not eating out, because every time I'd have to eat out, then I would have to brush my teeth, and I was very meticulous about it. And so I just got to the point where I was, now of course you would call it not fasting, but the intermediate fasting, where you just eat 1 or 2 meals a day. I guess I was ahead of the curve in the late 80s and early 90s when they didn't have that word at the time. So I just didn't eat then. So usually I would come home. At the time I was on that job, with that schedule, I would probably eat, read the newspaper, maybe catch up on something that I might have taped the night before. I didn't do that too much because I knew then all I'd be doing is watching tapes. But I'd only stay up a few hours, or a couple hours actually, and then I'd probably go to bed. And then I would wake up a couple hours before I'd have to go into work the next day. And it would, or actually later that same day, technically. And it would just keep going on and on in that direction for work and sleep and work and sleep and work and sleep for those 3 days. And then for the next 3.5 to 4 days, I was off. And I did do a lot of things, at night, or slept late. I said I've always done that. And now that I am, let's see, I had taken off a couple different times at work over this last 5-year period or so, and I would gravitate back to that same getting up around 11 or 12 schedule. Well, I was let go from my job, or the job was eliminated, whatever you want to call it, back in November. And at that time I was working an 8 to 4:30 to 5, normal schedule, what most people would be 9 to 5. I was doing it. I can do it. Doesn't mean I like it, and doesn't mean it's obviously the healthiest for me, because that's just not where my circadian rhythm is. But I was working a regular, quote, 9 to 5, and here in Nashville, 8 to 5 job. So it took me a while to get out of that. Not too terribly long, though. So I ended up, now I'm at a point where I am sleeping until, usually, until my boyfriend wakes me up to let me know he's going to work because he works a second shift. So he'll let me know that he's going to work. I'll get up then, which could be, anywhere between like 1 and 2 is when I'm getting up now. And depending on what I'm doing, going to bed at 4, 5, or 6 in the morning. I have been really working a lot on my YouTube channel and doing a lot of research and learning and training for what may be coming up. Coming up. So I have been very, very busy, even though I'm not technically working. I have been in front of my computer a good 8 or 10, 12 hours a day, sometimes making videos, doing research, doing learning about AI, stuff like that. And it's just easiest for me to do it when my body wants to be up like that. Now, I'm not going to complain about it because like I said, I've been doing this my whole life. I am used to it, but I will tell you that if you don't know anyone who has jobs like that or whatever, and I know other than being in IT, hospitality is big on that. Transportation is big on shift work, and of course, healthcare. Of course, healthcare. So you probably know somebody, if you know somebody in those fields, who has worked those shifts, if you haven't yourself. And I was wondering if you've ever thought about things from their point of view. Now, it used to be before COVID, when everything was open 24 hours, I would go to Walmart and walk around for like 2 hours, just walking around in the middle of the night because there's nobody there, and, just window shopping. I would go grocery shopping because my grocery store was open 24 hours. I would go, after work or something like that when there's no crowds. You just go in and out. You're out in, 15 minutes. I loved that, and now that's all gone because Walmart is not 24 hours anymore, and the grocery store is not 24 hours anymore. So that I mean, it's not that terrible, but it's just that got rid of something that I enjoyed doing. It hasn't been an issue in a while, but if you live in an apartment, I remembered having to put out a note when they'd want to spray for pests and they want to come into your apartment to do stuff. I would have to put a note saying, I'm a nighttime worker, I'm a daytime sleeper. Please, come back after, a certain time, or come back, very, very early in the morning. Don't come back in the middle of my sleep, which is probably about noon, So, and of course, when you're trying to sleep, when the whole rest of the world is awake, that can be an issue to some people. Luckily, because I've had this my whole life, and I'm not fighting against my own body, it's not as big a problem for me. But I've been awoken by, I think it's awoken by. Anyway, I had been awoken by people cutting their grass and using, lawn leaf blowers and construction outside, those kind of things where, especially on the weekend, oh, gee whiz, why are these people getting up at 7 o'clock in the morning and cutting the grass? I mean, I understand why, but, it's not what I would be doing at that time of morning. But that's just something to keep in mind if you have friends like that. It's not all that easy actually to sustain some friendships. because you are going to be most probably working, or you are working when most people, especially when you're younger, in your 20s and 30s, and you're out and about doing things, when most people are out and about doing things, you're at work. So that is an issue. You know, there's times that I've missed things that I would have liked to have participated in as far as classes are concerned, or some type of a volunteer thing, or whatever. And, you know, that is just part of it. And you miss concerts or other things that are, you know, once in a, I'm not gonna say once in a lifetime, but you know what I mean, just once. And they're here, they're gone. And, you know, you can't take off time for every single concert or every single thing you want to see. So you have to make your choices. But other than that, I still, even at this age, I'm 60 years old, or, you know, almost 61, and I would still work nights if that was the offer given to me. It's just, it just works better with my body, with my health, with my frame of mind, everything like that. Now, if you have somebody in your life that is somebody like that, don't forget them when it is time for, you know, parties or whatever. Maybe they can't go, but at least still being offered or being invited to whatever it is would be very much appreciated. Because if you are, I will say that working nights and or being a night owl is probably not best if you are an extrovert. I am a card-carrying introvert, and so it's fine with me. But I'm going to have to do some more research and see what percentage of people who work nights are extroverts as opposed to introverts. I'm going to guess that there's more people who are doing it willingly. It's because they're more introverts. That is my hypothesis anyway. So if you are somebody who either has the chance to be offered to work nights because you're going to get a little more money, depending on the company and depending on the pay scale, you might get, you know, 10% more, 5% more, or something if you work a non-standard shift. A lot of companies do that, and that may sway you. But just keep in mind that your world will necessarily get smaller. So if that is okay with you, that's you know, you just keep that in mind. Your world will necessarily get smaller. And just as far as I'm concerned, I can tell you that every relationship, marriage, boyfriend, whatever that I have had has been through work or school, but basically through work. And because I'm not out and about when other people are out and about. So that is something also to keep in mind if you are single and you don't want to stay that way. There's going to be a hurdle in that regard as well. Unless you find somebody else who works the same shift, and then hallelujah, y'all will be, you got half of it licked right there. Well, I hope you enjoyed this primer on being a night owl and working nights. This will definitely come up a lot, but I just wanted to give you this insight on where I see it and how it's been so far in my life. You take care, and I will talk to you soon. Have a great day. Bye.